Is this fine art?
No.
Do you like the war?
No.
Hello! Would you like to introduce yourself today?
Absolutely. My name is Raoul Hausmann. I am the curator of the first International Dada Fair in Germany, Berlin.
That's awesome. Raoul, what inspired you to collect the people that you did for this exhibition?
Well, we never really had a clear goal in the exhibition. We coated the walls of the gallery with works such as like posters, photo montages, and just like talking about political corruptness. Some of us use like art to discuss how it's essentially dead, and others, while protesting, made contradictory statements about what we were protesting for. Honestly, kind of confusing. We were validating art as well as discrediting the creation of it at the same time.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that's a little confusing.
yeah.
Was the exhibition a response to anything specifically?
We as a society put ourselves in the hands of Friedrich Ebert in the hopes of having a fair, peaceful society under the Weimar Republic. However, we did not find equality, just more reliance on business and war. And this exhibition was meant to, in part, show the world how morally bankrupt our society was.
What was your role as the curator of this exhibition?
Well, I mean, I was the writer behind the exhibition, the poet, and as the Dada self, I created a sort of like theoretician behind it. I directed and forged the manifesto and also experimented with different types of collage and created a new form of poetry featuring like texts as well as vocals.
Was the exhibition successful?
Very. We didn't turn a profit on it, even though we charged a lot for it, but the recognition and publicity of the fair was priceless. Eventually the whole world knew about us, and photos of the work were published in newsletters in Rome and Amsterdam and Milan and Boston. And the first exhibition of modern art in New York shows 50 of our pieces, which were the first German Dada pieces to be seen in America. However, there was a lot of backlash from the critics. Not a lot of people understood it, and we kind of disrespected the German government and military, so we got like a fine of 900 marks.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty bad.
That hurts.
Yeah, it was. It was
Wow.
rough.
Well, thank you for your time. You're a great curator.
Oh, thank you.
Though I, Raoul Hausmann, consider myself to be the Dada self of the Berlin Dada movement, I was first introduced to the concept of Dadaism by a man named Richard Hulsenbeck. You must understand this movement was conceived in the minds of people whose world no longer made sense. Other locations in Europe had also caught on to Dadaism, as many were shaken in the aftermath of the war. We no longer saw money as a way to live, but as an excuse for destruction. Capitalism no longer gave us a sense of industriousness, as we saw what physical and emotional toll it took on the world. Bonding over our mutual disgust in the war, I, along with George Gross, John Hartfield, Johannes Bader, Richard Hulsenbeck, and Wieland Hertzfeld, created the Berlin Dada Club, in which we experimented with our new medium and strayed from the use of oil paint. In 1918, in the midst of my affair with Hannah Hawk, we conceived of the technique photomontage, which would become a common theme of work of other artists in this movement. Along with the manifesto I mentioned earlier, I wrote The New Material in Painting, which discussed why we wished to move from more traditional mediums. Oil paint had deep roots in art and was too based on aesthetic beauty. Myself and other Dadaists felt Dadaism was the first art movement that no longer confronted life aesthetically. For us, we created what was meant to both embrace as well as critique modernity, and we did so by using materials associated with our technologically advancing society. Our work frequently used collage of newspapers, films, and advertisements that increasingly defined contemporary life. At the Berlin Dada Gallery of Otto Burchard, I and several other artists of the first International Dada Fair displayed posters, collage, found objects, and wild paintings made with thick, sludge-like oil on the walls of the gallery. The works were hung in a way which parodied the traditional salon-style exhibition. Our pieces were not meant to be beautiful, but rather to make the viewer aware that we were against art. The work was meant to be aggressive and fight against the idea of passively looking at an image, urging people to think and see. We hung posters of loud, furious text. One particular poster screamed, "Finally, open up your mind." We wanted to create a sort of mental revolution for the viewer, even going as far as to describe what Dadaism is. We sent an invitation card for the event, which read, "The Dadaistic person is the radical opponent of the exploitation. The logic of exploitation creates nothing but fools, and the Dadaistic person hates stupidity and loves nonsense. Thus the Dadaistic person shows himself to be truly real, and opposed to the stinking hypocrisy of the patriarch and the capitalist perishing in his armchair." Our exhibition aimed to capture the suffering and angst of our society as caused by grave political error and selfishness. We used the very material which represented the changing times to reveal the struggle which it caused. Industry played a large role in our struggle, so why not use the cause to show its own effect? Opting for cutting and gluing materials rather than paint, we simplified and chose which parts of art we found important and necessary to pass on to others with our own photo montages. With our pieces, we hoped to enlighten and alter how people looked at the world around them and encourage them to see the corruption of the world and in business. We wanted to revolutionize what was commonly seen in galleries and confront those who were accustomed to an oil-on-canvas type of aesthetic. While I transcribed our manifesto about the move from paint to other methods of expression, my associates came together and contributed work for the exhibition, including John Arp, Johannes Bader, Otto Dix, Max Ernst, George Gross, Wieland Hertzfeld, Hannah Hack, Johannes Theodor Bargeld, Francis Picabia, Rudolf Schlichter, Schmalzen, Georg Scholz, and John Hartfield. My creating the manifesto and leading the exhibition brought in and created awareness of the movement. Dix, who created the paintings I mentioned earlier, assisted me. While the paintings stirred up emotion in those accustomed to more traditional art, Hertzfeld and Gross contributed a significant amount of work and aided in the organization and advertising in the event. Though the exhibition did not turn a profit, the incredible amount of publicity spread word of our work. A professional photographer captured the opening, and photos traveled via newsletters and print to areas such as Milan and Rome, Amsterdam, and Boston. Having made a monumental impact, 50 of the pieces were selected for the first exhibition of modern art in New York. These pieces were the first German Dada works to be shown in America. As a result of the publicity, however, the exhibition stirred up an immense amount of controversy, and the majority of the reviews were highly negative and at times furious. A few of the pieces were so controversial, both Gross and Hertzfeld received fines of 900 marks and were convicted because they slandered the German military by putting Gott mit uns in public view. Despite many unfortunate reviews, the fair contributed a new way to producing work through photo montage.
Is this fine art?
No.
Do you like the war?
No.
Hello! Thank you for being here today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Why, of course. I'm Hannah Hoch.
Wow, hello, Hannah. What is Dada to you?
Well, Dada to me is making a mockery out of the war. The war was inhumane and caused nothing but chaos. I feel Dada is best represented by taking all these standard ideas and making them frivolous.
Why did you join Dada?
Dada first spoke to me as an anti-war kind of movement, but as my male companions kept telling me I was not wanted as a woman in the exhibit, my goal was to then make a name for myself and show my worth in the show even if I was a woman.
Which of your pieces in this exhibit do you feel spoke the most to the audience?
Well, you see, my piece called Cut with a Kitchen Knife Dada through the last Weimar beer belly cultural epoch of Germany, I thought people connected most with this piece because I purposely took the heads of all the political male figures and I put them onto the other bodies, such as women and babies, to belittle them and show how ridiculous they would look.
What makes you different from the other artists?
Well, for one, most of my pieces are photo montage pieces. Concept Rule, Houseman, and I started really practicing in our works. I use all pictures in small fragments and create a new idea with them. Not to mention, I also show the struggles of gender equality in my work.
For being a woman in a male-dominated show, why was your art in this exhibit?
Actually, the other artist told me I wasn't allowed in the show, but Houseman really saw my talent and knew I would be such a great contributor with all my collage talent and my views on society. So, he told the other guys that if he didn't let me into the show, that he would withdraw his own work.
Do you feel the show helped you as an artist, or did it negatively impact your career?
Dada really helped me to show my views on society and sexism, even if it wasn't easy to do. I feel it really helped me to grow as an artist and use my collage and photo montage technique in my works by combining them with other ideas as well.
Wow, that's ingenious.
Why, thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
In the midst of World War I, many Europeans were in a time of melancholy and animosity. They felt that the war was unnecessary, chaotic, and was destroying humanity. Switzerland, a neutral country, started writing books and performing demonstrations as an anti-war movement showing the corrupt politics. A small group of people decided to move these ideas into sculptures and collages, later calling themselves the Dadaists. The Dada movement was considered an anti-war movement in which artists contributed work to show the chaos the war caused and the people who were promoting it in a way of collage. The Dada movement continued on from Switzerland into Berlin, where artists came together to open a small salon. The first piece of art to send a message was a police officer's body that floated from the ceiling, but had a pig's head rather than a human's. Although many men were credited their role in the Berlin Dada Fair, one woman made it a goal to show her equal support and made a name for herself as a Dadaist. This woman was Hannah Hoch. In 1912, a young Hannah Hoch began her studies of art at the School of Applied Arts in Berlin, which was already out of place as a young woman. As war struck 2 years later, and Hoch was forced to leave school to join the Red Cross. Hoch described the war as having shattered her view of the world and afforded her newly political conscience. This is when Hoch met Raoul Haussmann, an artist who introduced her to the Dada Fair. Dada was the first conceptual art movement where the focus of the artist was not on crafting aesthetically pleasing objects, but to instead express their anti-war, bourgeois, racism, and sexist ideas in a new artistic way. Hoch was intrigued by the Dada group because of her anti-war views as well as her issues with sexism. From the beginning, Hannah Hoch tested the waters of gender equality by escaping the traditional education for women in her generation. Now with the Dada movement, Hoch planned to test things further as being the only woman associated with the Dada Fair. However, this would not come easy. Hoch's work incorporated this idea of collage, but what made her different were her clippings of magazines and photos to create a new image that expressed her feminist and anti-war views. Together, Hoch and Haussmann created the idea of photo montage, in which they would create a new image out of cut-up photographs, much how we use photo montage today. Although Hoch was a firm believer in the Dada movement, the other male artists did not want her in the art show, and Hoch was allowed to participate only after Haussmann threatened to withdraw his own work from the exhibition if she was kept out. Hoch's work ended up being one of the most famous and influential works in the Dada exhibit, but still she was considered a vital component by her fellow artists. Because of this, Hoch was typically patronized by and kept at margins of the Berlin group, which later led to her departure from the group. Dadaists and others during the movement described the Dada as an anti-art. Not only did Dada consist of visual art, but of literature, theater, and graphic designs, all of which came together to show the irrationality and the rejection of the prevailing standards of art. The art created in the Dada movement was constructed in a way to contrast the expectations of what was thought to be a standard art. Dada was most heavily influenced by Cubism in how Cubist painters also rejected the inherited concept that art should copy nature or that they should adopt the traditional techniques of perspective, modeling, and foreshortening. In Hannah Hoch's many photo montages, she loses the idea of a structured photographic piece and rather has an array of scenes scattered about her canvas.
Is this fine art?
No way.
Do you like the war?
No.
Hello.
Hi,
Who are you?
I'm Kurt Schwitters.
Okay. Why are you here today?
Well, I really wanted to be a part of this fair, but they didn't let me in because I'm more involved with the expressionism movement. And I have some sort of involvement with the Walton's Gallery, which is apolitical and pro-art.
Wow. Well, I guess if you weren't part of this, I guess I don't need to interview you anymore. Okay. Well, thank you for being here today. Is this fine art?
No.
Do you like the war?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Who are you?
I'm Hans Art.
What is an example of one of your most significant works of art?
Collage with squares arranged according to the laws of chance of 1916 is one of my earliest works that did a good job demonstrating my signature technique of chance collages. This work is important because it is one of the first works that engages the element of chance, showing my commitment to the idea of chaos.
Wow, you like chaos?
I love it.
Wow. Who influenced you and who did you have an influence on?
I was really influenced by Pablo Picasso and Wassily Kandinsky. A few artists that I believe I had an influence on are Henry Moore, Barbara Hepworth, Isamu Noguchi, and Joan Miro.
What sets you apart from the other artists?
Well, rather than knowing ahead of time what my works were going to represent, I did not begin with a subject. Instead, I created the work first and titled it after.
Wow. What is your position in Dada?
I'm actually one of the founders of this movement. I was
okay.
there from the beginning along with Tristan Zara, Marcel Janko, and Richard Huelzenbeck.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Anything else you want to say about that?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.